So, the rise of reform, Trump winning a second term, Milei destroying Argentina, AfD in Germany, the rise of the radical and far right is here. But how do we beat them? Now, I've offered my criticisms of current strategies, and criticism is needed, but what is the alternative? It's easy to just critique, but what about the answers? Now, what I'm saying is purely my opinion and analysis. Of course, people will disagree, have other ideas, and that's good. We should be doing that to improve our arguments and strategy. But it's what I believe is the most likely to work. And I think a lot of you will agree. So, what are we doing wrong? Granted, I think this falls far more on the shoulders of liberals than actual leftists, but it's still important to realise the incorrect strategies. The two main examples I use are the UK and US elections, given that they were pretty recent, and of course the US. I mean, how can we not talk about them? Donald Trump won again. How? Because he is overall a terrible person, but that doesn't matter. People don't care. The major issue was from the Democrats. There are many different reasons as to why Harris lost the election, but broadly, the one thing they were missing was the one thing Trump had, and that was a message. Sure, the Democrats and their policies are objectively better for the working class. That doesn't matter. Most of the policies from the Republican Party are disastrous, but that also doesn't matter. The Democrats campaigned on being technocrats, moderate, and simply unexciting. Yet Trump can claim that Haitian immigrants are eating cats and dogs and still become president. The underlying message from Trump and the GOP is immigration and criminals coming over to destroy the country and cultural elites. Now, these things are nonsense. Immigrants are a benefit to the US culturally and economically. Cultural elites are, it's just a made up thing. The only elites are the elites we've always had, and that's the billionaire class, doing everything they can to improve their own material well being at the behest of workers. So, what is the liberal strategy? What do we see from both the Democrats and the UK Labour Party? The Democrats attacked Trump. They attacked, and attacked. Harris, after equivocating, finally called Trump a fascist. Now, this is true. Trump is unequivocally a fascist, but that doesn't matter. The problem is that simply attacking your opposition doesn't work. All you're doing is keeping them in the spotlight. You attack Trump, but you're still saying his name. You're still framing your entire campaign around him. And a lot of people don't even listen to the attacks. A lot of people's responses are, well, they're attacking him and they're doing it because they're scared of him. Being attacked in politics these days is actually a sign of virtue for some people. Now, what did Labour do under Keir Starmer when they were in opposition? They attacked the Tories, not even on policy or ideology, but on competence. And they pitched themselves as the better managers. And you're probably thinking, but they just won. Yes, they did. But they won because the Conservatives collapsed, and that was entirely of their own making. No attack or strategy from Labour did anything. The Tories just imploded, and Starmer quite literally got lucky. But he lost votes. He got less votes than Jeremy Corbyn in both 2017 and 2019. Yet, due to our undemocratic system, Starmer won a huge majority. But look where they are now. They are insanely unpopular, and they might not even get a second term. So, what's the solution? You've heard me critique and analyse, but what do we need to do? Well, to defeat right-wing populism, you need left-wing populism. Not technocratic arguments, not liberal centrist bullshit, but full-on radical and aggressive left populism. I wholeheartedly believe that the core messages of Jeremy Corbyn and Bernie Sanders is the way to go. Now, of course, I'm going to explain myself because Jeremy Corbyn lost 2 general elections and Bernie Sanders never made it out of the primaries. Now, notice I said the core message. That doesn't mean I think a carbon copy of Corbyn is going to be effective, but I mean the core class dynamics that he and Bernie Sanders pushed. To say, well, those guys didn't win, so give it up. Tell that to Trump. I mean, he lost in 2020. Did the GOP reinvent themselves? Did Trump go away? No. One of the most successful strategies that Trump deployed was that he never stopped campaigning. There's a tendency, I think, is that losing an election means you have to completely reinvent yourselves because you were rejected. And we can see this. Labour under Corbyn is radically different to Labour now. But Trump losing, well, he spent the next 4 years continuing to say the same things. Of course, he then created a narrative that the election was stolen, and whilst that is complete bullshit, it's a narrative and it was effective. Voters, I think, respond to essentially bombardment. They may even decide their support on the last thing they hear. So if a long-term strategy is deployed by the left, isn't distracted by one election outcome, but it's stuck to his message, I think that's effective. Now, Bernie Sanders never made it out of the primaries, but let's be honest, they were rigged against him for one. But the broader point here is that he is more popular with Trump supporters and Republican voters than any other Democrat. His message over and over was Medicare for all, free colleges, end the wars, and an economy run for all people, not the billionaires. Over and over again, he said that. Every single interview he gave, it was that message. Jeremy Corbyn's 2017 message was for the many, not the few. Public services back in public ownership, free tuition, raise the minimum wage and raise taxes on corporations. An economy that works for the many, not the few. So instead of just campaigning on how bad the bad guys are, offer hope and alternative message. Get people thinking about our message rather than simply telling people how bad their message is, because you're still talking about their message. And by the way, I'm not arguing that we don't attack the other side. Definitely not. But what I'm saying is, don't attack the other side and expect that to be some kind of eye-opener for people. Attack and then give your alternative message. Now, when it comes to social issues, liberals think that capitulating on them is effective. It doesn't. It never works. The Democrats campaigned on strict borders. They avoided woke issues, but that didn't matter because Trump attacked them on that anyway. Look at what Labour are doing. They're being tough on migrants. But is that working? No. Telling people that right-wing parties are essentially correct, all that does is give them more credit. That's all it does. What the left should and must do is continue to support immigrants, give the alternative and the positive case for immigration, still stand up for minorities, and then coalesce all of that around class. Don't get distracted. Don't get caught in culture war traps. Just say, whether you're trans, an immigrant, we're all working class, and we need to stick together to take on the oligarchs who want to destroy us. Now, of course, on this platform, we can talk about intersectional politics. We can do a deep dive on social issues. But when campaigning and talking about the populist right, the only thing I'm convinced can work is being a radical populist left movement. And when I mean radical, I don't just mean opposing austerity and the two-child benefit cap. They're not radical. Not just talking about public ownership, but I think we should try and move the debate, because chasing the debate only moves it to the right. I think we need to start talking about universal basic income and specifically universal basic services. If we force the debate left, I think we'd have more success. Even if the policies we get from future governments eventually are nowhere near radical, I still think it's important. I don't think it's particularly healthy having the current debate, which is, should WASPy women be compensated, and then net zero on immigration. And I think that's where the debate is really going to be. And it's just becoming narrower and narrower. Let me know what you think. I'm sure what I'm talking about isn't a silver bullet, but I do think that populism is the only effective tool.
Support independent media, support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.